Good evening, Bucs fans. We are back. It is Real Bucs Talk with another live stream. And as always, I'm joined by my good man, Mark Ramirez. And tonight we have a special guest, Mr. Bucs Nation James Hill. Man, how are you doing? It's awesome to have you on.
Thank you for having me on. I got very confused at the start whenever you both muted your mics. I thought, wait a minute, what is happening? Because the last thing I heard was James Hill, take it off, let's go. And I went, okay. And then you both muted your mics, and I thought, am I supposed to say something? I don't know what to do right now. But thank you both for having me on. Greatly appreciated. I do want to say before we start, I love what you guys have been doing here on the platform.
Appreciate that.
We don't have enough YouTubers on here for the Bucs, and you guys and your film reviews have been absolute money. So thank you for the work you guys do.
No, I appreciate it. Hey, we're just trying to learn from you, man. You're the master. You're the 2021 Bucs create content. Content creator of the year. I mean, that's awesome from the PeterCast guys. So, we are here with the legend already, so it's awesome. But we have some news. NFL offseason is getting going. We have, obviously Dak Prescott with his big contract just signed a couple, I think within the hour. So we have that, guys are getting franchise tagged. But this is a Bucs show, and we want to get into just your thoughts of, really, the season. Super Bowl champs. That's awesome. That's always going to, how long have you been celebrating that? It's just continued celebration, or, when does it stop? Or
yeah. So in terms of, how this season is when, I think even the most I pride myself in being a very optimistic guy, right? And I think even the most optimistic people's expectations were kind of blown out of the water in terms of how this season ended. In terms of celebrations, I'm still celebrating. It still feels wonderful. It doesn't feel real still, kind of, I still sit there and think man, no, that wasn't the Bucs. It's got, it had to have been a different team. There's no way it was the Bucs with Tom Brady, because that just doesn't sound right, But it's still going to take some time to actually process it and digest it and sit there and think, wow, that actually happened. Actually, the first day at work when I came back, I got in trouble for celebrating at work. I work at a grocery store. So I got in trouble. They told me I needed to calm down because I was just yelling, high-fiving everybody. It was a blast. So, still celebrating, still enjoying the ride. I've said this before in other places, like on the YouTube channel and other places as well. But it sounds cheesy and cliche, but I won't forget any one of those guys that were on this roster for this year. That's probably kind of my favorite part, is just remembering all those guys. So it's all been great.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hell yeah. Well, about the work getting upset, they know what you do, right? They know who Mr. Buc Nation is, right? They better know.
Vaguely. I think, well, I don't want to tell my bosses because that just would be kind of a weird thing to explain,
But seen you if they have a YouTube. Look at
I think one or two of my bosses had seen the stuff that I did. I don't think the other ones would care that much is the thing. So, it was interesting. I didn't get in too much trouble. They're just like, hey, James, tone it down. I was like, okay.
I was 12 in mind. I told them, I was like, if we get the Super Bowl, I'm going to lose my mind. And
right.
Once it happens, you guys expect me to be me. I just can't act differently. So they literally just let me free reign. I was doing cartwheels, running around with flags, a big old sticker all over my desk. It was fun. Come on. How long have we waited for this crap, right?
Too long. We waited too long.
God. And now it's time. So
that's right.
To be honest, we're celebrating. We celebrated, but it's just like the same thing. Yeah, life keeps going on. Some people are still celebrating. Yeah, it's awesome in the moment, but you got to keep looking ahead, I guess. And that's pretty much what we do in this channel, to show everything. You continue the same things. You got to keep looking forward. What's going to happen? What's the next move? And there's a whole lot of things that are ahead of us right now, because now we're going to try and keep this team intact, right? So,
yeah.
What is your opinions? Who's coming back? Who's not? Who do you most desperately want to come back? These are the big decisions coming, tomorrow.
Yeah, so it all starts tomorrow with the franchise tag deadline. This has been, I mean, obviously I've made some videos talking about it. I've had a lot of people ask me about it. And it's tough too to kind of like put the bias aside and think about it in like a, what do I think will happen, not do I want to happen. You know, that's why in all the videos I talk about should the Tampa Bay Buccaneers sign them or not, I always differentiate like, should they? Do I think it's personally a good idea? Do I think they should? And then I also split it by saying, do I think they actually will? I always make sure to give my opinion on both of those. Based on everything I've seen and, you know, listened to in terms of stuff being reported, it really is up in the air. Chris Godwin, it seems like he's most likely going to get the franchise tag tomorrow. Shaq Barrett, I mean, that one's still up in the air. Levante David, it seems like he's leaning more towards coming back. And Ndamukong Suh came out and said that he's talked to Jason Light and that he wants to come back as well. So there's still a lot of stuff up in the air, but if I had to guess right now, I would say Chris Godwin comes back. Levante David probably comes back. I'm genuinely just going to say 50-50 on Shaq because I don't know. I think Sue comes back. I think Gronkowski comes back. I don't think Leonard Fournette comes back. I think Ryan Suckup comes back. And then probably Antonio Brown comes back. Those would be kind of my guesses.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think we're all on the same page as far as like names go and who returns. I mean, me and Mark have talked about Shaq Barrett, and I think we both lean like it's just up in the air. I mean, it really just depends on, you know, the contract and the length and how much you're willing to pay him. You know, obviously he deserves it. He deserves to get paid. But it's going to be based off the market. But I think we both agree Chris Godwin probably gets some type of tag. I think he gets the tag tomorrow. And then we just, you know, we see with Levante, I think we bring him back. And obviously there's going to be some restructuring. We've already heard about Tom Brady, you know, potentially redoing his deal. So that could, you know, help us out a lot. So yeah, it just remains to be seen. You know, obviously Ndamukong Suh, I think me and Mark have both talked about him a lot. We really like him. I think he's the key. He's a big key of this defense, especially him and Vita Vea. So Mark, let you elaborate on that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, you said it pretty much yourself. Like Shaq is the biggest one where I think is, if anyone doesn't sign back, it'll be Shaq. I think Chris Godwin, no matter what, will get that tag that you just said. Sue, I think will be back. I don't think he's going to be crazy and expect $9 to $10 million like he did. I think he's always been doing. Levante David, I think it's just rumors. There's just no way, really. I mean, I think he's just celebrating, excited, and someone wanted to say something, and rumors took flight, like the Odell Beckham Jr. rumors. A lot of people with that. So
yeah,
I mean, and if this is true, someone's saying the Jags could be throwing a lot of money at Shaq. I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of people would do that, especially after a Super Bowl like he had. But the thing is, like you just said, if you can't make the numbers match and you're not going to be team friendly to go for that championship again, well, you can't. The team can't be needing something else. Like you got to think of the team first. And if we're going to give all that money to Shaq, who else are you going to lose? You could lose two key pieces behind him, Levante being one of them. So I mean, I know it's not the best view of saying, "Oh, let Shaq go." But if he's wanting 20 million plus, I can't do it. I honestly just can't do it. Someone said Shaq over David. What about that?
That's a tough one. You know, I've always been a big defender of Shaq Barrett. You guys can't see it because whenever I live stream like the live game watch parties, it reflects off of these two things I have here. But it's a custom drawing of Shaq Barrett, and then it's a signed shirt from Shaq Barrett. I've got a lot of stock in Shaq Barrett, is my point. Which I mean, I think last time I was even on here, we had talked about how much I love Shaq Barrett. You know, that one I'm just biased for. But I would say that I still think that Levante David is more valuable than Shaq Barrett. I'm a big Shaq defender. I think that people harp on him way too much than is necessary, you know, in terms of saying that he's not producing. I mean, if you look at advanced statistics, Shaq Barrett's a pretty darn good pass rusher. But Jason Light put it best when he said that he felt Devin White would not be the linebacker he is right now without Lavonte David. And I think that rings pretty true. I think Lavonte David is about as perfect of a mentor as you can have for a guy like Devin White. And that's just makes him so valuable. So in my opinion, I would still have Lavonte David above Shaq Barrett personally, taking my love for Shaq aside.
Let me put this little tidbit in here. This is great. This point right here. All they need is an edge that can beat single teams. Shaq appeared without help. Ergo, he is not elite and not worth $20 million. I fully agree with that statement. We all here on Real Bucks Talk Plus and I both say how this team is built from the middle of the defense. Vita Vea, Lavonte, Devin White, and your safeties behind them. That's where the meat and potatoes is. The outside edge is only getting single teamed. That's why your advanced stats are saying you're doing so damn well, because everyone else is scared Vita Vea at 350 pounds is going to kill someone. So, and you're blitzing A gaps nonstop, leaving the outside better matchups. There's a lot of things that we kind of say. Everyone sees the big numbers of 19.5 sacks from last season or Shaq's Super Bowl, but he's getting easier matchups. Yes, he just is. That's why we think the edge is a little bit more expendable. Who do you have behind him? Damn near nothing. To be honest, like Cam Gill, I don't know if you're going to see him step into what Shaq did. No. That's why it's in a hard place where we're going to have to either draft it really high or find one of these guys that go unsigned, maybe a veteran. I mean, but that's, again, very up in the air, but you hope you can bring them back. That's the big hope. But if you can't, I wouldn't put the whole team at liberty because of that. What are your takes?
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, I do think that there were times when Shaq did disappear without help. You could say a similar thing for Jason Pierre-Paul as well. So I think either one, both has very similar situations, which does support that idea of like, you know, Shaq Barrett might not deserve top edge rusher type money. There are plenty of strong options in free agency in terms of guys who may be a little bit less in terms of money, who could potentially just slot right in and replace the production that Shaq Barrett was doing there. So there still is going to be a lot to pay attention to. Like you said, Mark, you do want Shaq Barrett to come back because he has proven to be successful in the time that he has had here in Tampa Bay. But if they absolutely can't afford him, they do have a couple of options there that they can go ahead and explore, not just in free agency, but also in the draft as well with that 32nd pick.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, yeah, I mean, so we talked a little bit about, you know, just Super Bowl celebration. We talked about, you know, free agency, you know, kind of game plan that we feel about, you know, our team and who we should bring back. But let's dive into some of these, you know, rumors that have been just going around. You know, obviously, let's talk about the OBJ thing. I mean, what do you think of that? Is it viable? Is it something that the Bucs should consider? What's your opinion on that news?
I do want to say shout out to the boys from Cannon Fire Podcast, by the way, Rhett and Evan, who were in the chat there talking. I've talked with them a little bit about this. I have a video actually that is made talking about this coming out either later tonight or tomorrow. And in that video, you know, I don't usually do this, but just it's bogus. You know, it's just not going to happen. I usually like to keep like an open mind with a lot of things, but for something like that, no, I think people are taking what Adam Schefter said out of context and just really blowing it out of proportion. I watched the entire clip where he had talked about Odell Beckham Jr. And to break it down, somebody asked Adam Schefter, hey, if the Buccaneers don't re-sign Chris Godwin, could you see them potentially trading for Odell Beckham Jr.? Adam Schefter said, you could say that about a lot of teams. So that's strike one. He's not talking specifically about the Bucs. He's saying, hey, there's a lot of teams who could potentially trade for Odell Beckham Jr. He then went on to say, geez, I'm trying to remember exactly what he said, but he said, you know, there's plenty of teams. The Buccaneers might want Odell Beckham Jr. and Tom Brady might want him, but even if they were to trade for him, they have a lot of other problems in terms of free agency revolving around the defensive side of the football with Ndamukong Suh, Levante David, Shaq Barrett, guys we were just talking about. So like that's strike two, in my opinion, is even if they were to, consider a trade for Odell Beckham Jr., how the heck are they going to make the cap work? And then the third strike, in my opinion, that a lot of people aren't really paying attention to was Kevin Stefanski, the Browns head coach, before the clip of Adam Schefter explaining this, hypothetical scenario. Kevin Stefanski was in a press conference and he said that they felt that they were in a good spot regarding Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr.'s contracts, and that their goal right now is to build a team of premier players as much as possible while Baker Mayfield is still on that rookie contract. It makes sense. So that's all three strikes, in my opinion. Okay. It's not happening. People are just blowing this out of proportion. It's fluff, it's filler, it's just stuff just to get people riled up, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I'll say this quickly. Yeah, no chance. And Mark, I'll let you go.
No chance, period.
Yeah.
Accent. But that was before the show. But yes, there's no big news right now, so they're trying to make news. They're trying to make drama, and that's all agents want to do. They want to be talked about. Or this NFL is a drama. Let's just be honest. I mean, there's so much money. There's so much everything. I mean, anything you can think of. There's bad stuff. There's good stuff. There's exciting. There's storylines. There's so much stuff. Yeah, J. Elmore said clickbait. It pretty much is. Like I just showed that little clip. I mean, how are you going to do this? How are you going to say 7 hours ago Tom Brady wants Odell Beckham Jr. and then 6 hours ago Tom Brady didn't say he wanted Odell? Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady never said anything. It was just Adam Schefter saying, "Hey, they might want Odell Beckham Jr., Tom Brady and the Bucs." Like, it's just a hypothetical. Of course, every team in the league might want Odell Beckham Jr. It's Odell Beckham Jr.,
Yeah, no combine. Let's spread rumors.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the.
It is what it is. Can I ask? I'm seeing in the chat they're referring to a number 3.
Oh no! Here we go.
Are they talking about?
No, that's Ryan Suckup they're talking about.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Oh, I thought number 3 had the highest scoring season Bucs history. Okay, I was reading the chat. And I was like, wait, are they talking about Jameis? I was like, what's going on here? I thought I was having a stroke or something.
James, don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about Odell, that rumor, but there's also another rumor. We had Gerald McCoy was talking to, I think, NFL radio or something like that. And he said he was interested in coming back to Tampa Bay. So what would be your thoughts on Gerald McCoy possibly returning to the Buccaneers?
It's interesting. I just made a community post about this just a couple of days ago. I was reading an article about free agent fits on NFL.com from Nick Shook. And Nick Shook said that a reasonable fit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a free agent addition was Gerald McCoy. So this is kind of like, that's interesting, right? How Nick Shook makes this article saying, hey, by the way, free agent fit, Gerald McCoy to the Bucs, bring him back. And then just a few days later, Gerald McCoy says, I'd love to come back. I posted the free agent fit thing, like a photo of it, about the article and what it said in my community tab. Oh, it didn't go well. It didn't go well. Man, people just blew up saying, no, we don't need Gerald McCoy back. We just fixed the culture in our locker room, and we don't need somebody like him in it, which is a bit much, in my opinion. I love everybody who adds to the discussion for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think it's all valuable to get everybody's different takes and opinions. In my opinion, I would be happy with Gerald McCoy returning to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I've always been a fan of his. I understand why they wanted to move on from Gerald McCoy in place of Ndamukong Suh. But Gerald McCoy didn't do anything wrong. He really didn't. He was always a trooper. He was always doing his best for the team, and he was good too. So you know, would it happen? I don't know. It's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they've released him, so you know, I don't think that he'll get brought back, but I wouldn't mind it happening at all.
Can I take this before you just go on your rant? Plus,
Yeah, go ahead.
just one sentence period. I know, but this is talking about storybook endings. That would be one for him. I mean, he still has a house here. He left 2 years, did all right in Carolina. Then last year he just got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Is there bad blood? He even said on that little radio, Sirius XM radio little show, he said there's no bad blood. Like him and Jason Light text, him and the players text. I don't see why it would be a bad idea considering he's not going to be asking top dollar, to be honest. He's at the end of his career. He's one of the older defensive tackles in the league. If he's asking for money, okay, yeah. He's probably calling us or calling the Bucs, let's be honest. So I think he'd be a good fit for a 5-tech, not a run stuffing guy. Raymond saying James Hill doesn't play the run. I agree. That's one thing where I'm like, he doesn't fit us well. But if you're matching him with a Sue, a Vita Vea, Golson, and you're rotating him in and out, I think that's awesome. Does that mean we don't draft defensive line? Hell no. I still think you got to think for the future as well because he's only going to be here a year, if that. So, and I'm thinking hypothetically. So I just see it'd be a good match for both him and the team because it's not like you're probably going to do an Antonio Brown contract where it's like barely anything. He's just trying to win. And I don't see the problem in that. And especially with his injury, he says he's not going to be ready till training camp. Maybe he doesn't even get signed until training camp because of that. So I don't know. I think it's not a bad or a good thing if we don't look at him heavily. I mean, I don't think why people get so mad about the culture thing. It wasn't really necessarily him. Why? Just because he helps people up? But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, my thing on it is they did release him for a reason. You know, obviously they looked at him. They didn't feel like he was a fit for what they were trying to do defensively. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind taking a look at him. I think he's probably going to be ready closer to training camp time. So maybe you bring him in for a workout and see what you have. If he's fully 100% and he looks good, he hasn't lost a step as far as physically, then I would say, okay, maybe you sign him to incentive contract, 1-year deal type thing when you can bring him in, on a rotational basis as a pass rusher, on third downs and use them that way. And you don't have to use them on first and second down and you just use them as part of your pass rush package. I could see that being a possibility. I wouldn't mind it, but do I think it's likely? Probably not. I agree with you guys. I think most likely we don't bring them back. I don't think we entertain the idea. I think they need a draft. I think a lot of people will agree they need a draft defensive tackle, defensive end, invest into the front seven and get more youth on that side of the football because these are aging guys that we already have in place. JPP 32, Dominican Sue, he's up there in age. If we bring him back, Shaq Barrett's 29. I know that's, not old, but still you want to get some more youth up there for your defensive front. And Vita Vea, I mean, he's already 27. So.
Yeah. I do want to say this. While we were just talking about it, I thought like, oh man, maybe they would like cut Will Golston as a cap casualty, bring in Gerald McCoy. I don't think that would happen. But, I think, Mark, you said it, if they bring him in on like an Antonio Brown type deal where they give him like some low end money with some incentives. And if they brought back Sue, that'd be pretty cool to have Vita Vea and Dominican Sue, Gerald McCoy, and Will Golston rolling out there. That would be pretty cool. I mean, Rhett makes a good point. Who would be wearing 93? Yeah, I don't think McCoy would be wearing 93 anymore. He'd probably have to change his number. But it would still be pretty cool to get all those guys on the field because Gerald McCoy still has some fans. Sue has a lot of fans. Vita Vea has a lot of fans. Like, it'd be cool to have all three of those guys on the same team.
Yeah, I mean, overload it like you did the wide receiver group last year, the tight end group. Why not just do that to the defense?
Yeah,
if all those guys want to sign like that, well, why the hell not, right? So who gets 93? Vita Vea, not Vita Vea, and Dominican Sue because he's on the team right now.
Yeah, and I think even if McCoy were to come back, like he was a little salty about it whenever they did give Sue his 93, but he's had a couple of years to cool off. He'd probably be okay with giving up his 93 at this point.
Yeah.
He's the one coming in.
That's right.
Su's been performing like nonstop.
Yeah. That would be cool though to see them together, like Sue and McCoy and Vita Vea all together on the same team. That'd be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so just continue the free agency talk. I mean, James, I don't know if we're going to be bringing in a lot of free agents from other teams, but would you? I mean, just like name a couple guys that maybe you think or that you like in general that maybe could be a fit for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I made a video talking about James White and whether or not Tampa Bay Buccaneers should or should not should or should not sign him. I said that, it's at least worth looking into, but you could say that for every single receiving back out there. The Buccaneers got pretty darn lucky because they need a receiving back, and there are so many good receiving backs out there. Like, it's amazing. James White's out there. I believe Rex Burkhead is out there. Dion Lewis is out there. Duke Johnson is out there. I love me some Duke Johnson. Theo Riddick is out there as well. That's just 5 guys who I feel the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would at least take a look at. It's not even including the guys in the NFL draft. Yeah. There's so much talent in that receiving back room or free agency class. Like, that would be, in my opinion, priority number 1 in terms of what they should look for. Bringing in a veteran cornerback would also be something that I would look into if I was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not somebody who could be a starter or who should be a starter, but definitely somebody who's like a 4th cornerback, I think would be a pretty good fit, kind of like a Ross Cockrell. If they want to re-sign him, that'd be cool. Maybe get a little bit more depth in that edge rusher position as well. There are still a couple of guys out there who have history with Todd Bowles, with Bruce Arians. I love Jordan Jenkins. I freaking love that guy, outside linebacker for the Jets. I think that he'd be a wonderful addition to this defense, but with all free agent signings, got to see if the money's there and stuff like that.
What do you think of what's his name? Henry Anderson, I think it is.
Yeah, that was another one I saw in terms of having like I don't know where they would play him, be it defensive tackle or defensive end. I mean, he'd probably kind of rotate around. I don't know how much money he would command. I believe he was just making $7-8 million a year on his last contract. So I mean, him and his agent may say, well, let's at least try to get somewhere a little bit below that. So that's going to really depend on pricing, but those are some of the guys and positions that I would kind of keep an eye on, is kind of getting a veteran 4th string cornerback, getting a little bit of help in terms of veteran edge rush defenders. And then also receiving back is something that I would look at, or some of the things that I would look at if I was the Bucs GM.
Okay.
That's the people in the chat. Jedrick McKinnon.
Yeah, Jerick McKinnon.
Some people saying, no expats. Oh, why not? I mean, especially James White. I mean, they have that strong connection. Henry Anderson is basically the same as Will Golson, or same as Anthony Nelson, same kind of thing. But
yeah,
I agree with you on a lot of points on there. I mean, I like the receiving threats in the draft. I don't know why Jason Light just doesn't draft receiving threats in the draft. Maybe it's something he's still. When I mean threats, I mean as in the running back room, like you're mentioning. So maybe it's something he's still learning to do. I mean, it seems like he's getting better with the drafts to me every year. That's just an area he needs to get better at. But obviously, edge rusher is something we're going to need to address at some time. Is it through continuously always getting a trade or a veteran somehow? I don't know. But that's something that they need to kind of invest in somewhere. I don't know if it's whether you're paying someone through free agency, which I really don't like doing, draft someone. But I don't know. Some people are saying DeMar Dotson over here. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, probably not DeMar Dotson.
I don't know if he's retired or
not. Right? Yeah, that's definitely something that could happen. I'm looking at some of the names too. Outside linebackers like Marcus Golden. I know the Buccaneers were maybe interested in him at some point a couple of years ago when Bruce Arians first got to the team. That could be somebody that they look at. I love Hassan Reddick, but the Bucs aren't going to get him. Unfortunately, he's going to cost a lot of money.
I like him.
Yeah, just kind of some depth guys too. Brennan Scarlett from Houston, 28 years old. He could be kind of a guy. I'm not knocking Anthony Nelson or anything either, but I mean, if Anthony Nelson's kind of your only depth piece besides guys like Cam Gill, which I mean, I'm fans of them as well, but getting another veteran in there who at least can like help out with a lot of those backup guys would be huge. So, you know, kind of looking at guys like Jordan. Man, I love Jordan Jenkins. I really do. I really want them to sign Jordan Jenkins. But Marcus Golden, you know, Brennan Scarlett, guys like that. Maybe. What do you guys think about Alden Smith? Could that be a guy they look at? You know, just kind of coming off of a. You know, he's had his problems, you know, his situations, but he had a pretty decent year last year. Is that something they could maybe look at if the price is right?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't hate it. I mean, you know, Bruce Arians is about, you know, second chances and, you know, being understanding of people's past and, you know, understand that people make mistakes, but that's not who they are. So, I mean, yeah, I would entertain it, but we'll just have to wait and see. You know, obviously they're going to, like we said earlier, they're going to try to get their own guys back. But I think, and, you know, me and Mark have talked about this relentlessly via text message about just drafting, you know, defensive line, defensive tackle, edge. We need a draft. Like, we need to invest it. It's time. It's time to invest in the early rounds. And, you know, with that said, I guess we can, Mark, unless you had something else you wanted to add on free agency, I guess we can transition to the draft.
Oh, I agree. James, if Alden Smith wants to come here, I'd 100% jump on that. 100%.
It'd be interesting. And then also just real quick at corner, Darryl Roberts. He has a history with Todd Bowles with the Jets. Justin Bethel, I believe he also has a history with Bruce Arians in Arizona.
Correct.
Just kind of some interesting guys like that who could be like that fourth cornerback. Or, hey, you could even bring back Ross Cockrell. So just kind of a couple of names there.
One more before we switch over to something else. Jack said Calvin Oy, 12 million, same stats as Shaq. You know, he's never had the sacks Shaq has, but I mean, it's a Patriots type of guy, 3-4 outside linebacker. I mean, would you entertain that?
That would be interesting. I would think if you're not bringing back Shaq, I really don't know how much you'd be willing to spend at that. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be weird. Like, if you're not bringing back Shaq, then it's like, well, how much are you really willing to spend at that position then, you know, to bring in his replacement? I don't know if, you know, they might think that 12 million might be a little bit too much to find his replacement, because then it'd be weird. Maybe they could look at Kyle Van Noy. That could be something that'd be very interesting. I think personally, like, if they don't bring back Shaq Barrett, they might not go for another big name guy who's going to cost, you know, double-digit millions of dollars. I would think, if anything, they may go for like another Shaq Barrett type project where they bring in, you know, kind of a younger mid-20s kind of guy who is trying to prove himself and just try and see if they can duplicate that magic they got with Shaq. You know, who's a great example of that? You know, just Jordan Jenkins. You know, I'm just saying. You know, just bring the guy in.
Keep pushing it.
Yeah.
Because aim, sign him.
Speaking it into existence.
Right? We're gonna do a whole live stream on how James was right. 100%.
Yeah.
I will be so happy if they actually bring in Jordan Jenkins. That'd be sick.
I wish we had a show when we're rooting for Vita Vea to be drafted, and then everyone else wanted Derwin James. I wish we had this. I would have gone ecstatic, laughing, while everyone else would have been downing him left and right.
Right.
Would have been it.
God, been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Plus, you were gonna say?
Oh no, I was just gonna transition to the draft if you guys are ready to talk draft.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the draft, James, you know, obviously we're in a different position than we've ever been before. You know, 32nd pick. Not used to that. You know, usually we're picking top 10, top 20. So I mean, just your thoughts on, I guess, strategy at 32nd and how does it change your approach when you're picking that late?
Yeah, so first things first, it feels great, by the way, to be picked 32nd, because, you know, we won the Super Bowl.
Right.
But when I look at, you know, some of the people that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could pick, I don't, you know, we kind of saw with the Kansas City Chiefs last year with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, where you're you're trying to get a guy who's going to be a really high tier role player. And, that is kind of what Clyde Edwards-Helaire was at first, kind of finding his way, working into that starting role with the Kansas City Chiefs. And then they signed Le'Veon Bell, and all that other stuff happened. But that's kind of what I expect from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is to not get like an immediate, like super crazy impact player, but maybe get a guy who can be a reliable, like fringe starter, maybe even full-time starter kind of guy. In the most recent mock draft that I did, I had them taking, who was it? It was Christian Barmore, defensive lineman from Alabama. I think a guy like that could potentially be a replacement for a Will Golston or an Ndamukong Suh, depending on what they want to do. Getting younger at certain positions and just getting really high tier role players and, fringe starter type guys, that would be my strategy.
Okay.
For first round. So, I mean, my thing with Barmore, a lot of people do really like Barmore.
Mm-hmm.
I see him as like a 3 technique, really good 3 technique, but coming out, obviously he's not elite as how Gerald McCoy was coming out. That's why he was a top 10 pick. That's why they're projecting him could be possibly available at 32. And if people are saying Gerald McCoy isn't a fit here, why is Barmore a fit? That's why I'm like, I like him as a player. Don't get me wrong. There's things he does that he shoots gaps really, really well. So I'm just wondering, like, why is he a good fit here now, but Gerald McCoy is just a crap? So I mean, that's where I'm kind of questioning people what they're seeing in a player evaluation. But I mean, then again, you never know. Maybe we are going to look at him because he would be the best player available. I still think draft best player available no matter what. And like you're kind of hinting at with the Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if one of those running backs is there, like Najee Harris or Travis Etienne, and there isn't a great edge rusher because there was a huge run on him, I don't see how you can pass him up. I know a lot of people will be like, it's stupid. I, for one, think it is stupid to draft a first-round running back. And people are someone saying, oh, the 5th year, we need that 1 year. I don't agree with any of that, but it would be justifiable to me if a player is that good of that talent and it's that much of an upgrade. I don't know. It just, to me, I could justify it if it was there at 32. It's like literally right there in the second round, but it's going to be tough. I don't think they're both going to be there though. Yeah. Plus, what's your hot take?
Yeah, I mean, trade down. That's pretty much it. But no, I mean, I think it's going to be different, right? Because it's a waiting game, so you have to see what pops up, what takes place. There's all different kinds of scenarios that could happen, but you're the last pick of the night, and it's like, who's going to be that guy that's falling? Do you go up and trade for that guy? Do you just sit back and wait? Do you have a quarterback that's on the board that other teams want to trade up for? A lot of people are talking about Mac Jones and him being top 10 pick now, which is crazy. It's the whole Daniel Jones thing again, it looks like. So, is that going to take place? Are these quarterbacks going to fall later than we expect? And the same thing with the running backs, is defensive players going to go higher than we anticipate? It's an edge class that I think has a lot of guys that are talented, but very raw as far as what they can do. Yeah. From a skill standpoint. I mean, there's some guys that are more polished. Yeah. Go ahead, James. You were going to say something?
Yes, I agree. Because in terms of technique and stuff like that, freak athletes, but in terms of technique and other stuff, a lot of these edge rushers kind of struggle with the same things.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing. Again, we're going to have we put up Ronnie Perkins today, and we have Greg Russo coming up next. That will be out later this week. And we see a lot of things. I mean, Russo is a guy that's talked about as a top 15 talent, but you look at him, he's basically playing defensive tackle as a edge defender. And can this guy play on the edge in the NFL? It doesn't look like it. He's going to have to be taught how to play defensive end or, be that guy. He's got long ass arms and really good tools, but it's he just doesn't show enough as far as putting everything together. And I think that's the case with a lot of guys that we've seen. Obviously, Aziz Ojulari and like Joseph Osai are a little bit more consistent. They have a little bit better, from the tool standpoint. We looked at Joe Chiron, who, he's got some good qualities too, but a lot of these guys are going to be in that range from 23 probably to like 36. And it's like really, who is going to be taken, like who's going to be taken higher than that? Because you have teams that need pass rushers. So it'll be interesting to see where these guys fall. But if it's me, I'm looking to trade down and try to get more picks because I just feel like the talent level is better on day 2 in the second and third rounds. I just feel like there's better value there. I look at the first round prospects. I only see about maybe 15 first round grades in this class, and I don't think we'll get one of those guys to fall to 32.
Especially with guys too who fit the needs for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Is that what you were alluding to, Michael, in terms of like 15 guys who fit what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would be looking for?
Well, yeah, not just that, but just talent overall.
Okay.
And then I look at offensive linemen too. You look at the offensive tackle class, and that's another position that's probably going to go early. Like, do you take a guy like Alex Leatherwood, who I really like, but I think he's projected more as a guard at the next level, which I wouldn't mind. He'd be a good depth piece, but it's just going to be decisions like that. I mean, or do you take a chance on like a Landon Dickerson, who's coming off, major injuries, but is a hell of a player when healthy. So it's just a lot of the guys that I like, I think would be better value later in that second round. You're basically picking a second round pick pretty much at 32, but I would like to see if you can get more capital to work with.
One thing I want to say quick too is, now that that's clarified to me, like there's 15 guys who you kind of have a first round grade on just for talent in general. Cut that in half then for the players who would specifically fit the needs that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have. They're not going to want a quarterback, with that first round pick, or they're not going to want a wide receiver with that first round pick. So it's like there's not a lot of options there. So I kind of see what you're talking about in terms of trading down, especially with the cap constraints that they have too. Rebuilding that depth up in the draft could be something that they look at.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with you saying 15 guys first round grade, I'm assuming 2 of those guys are running backs already. First round talents. We're talking elite talents.
Yeah, first round talents.
Talents.
Yeah.
Compare to me, like those 2 running backs easily top of the class. The offensive line class, insane. And edge rushers are a bunch of guys where they have a lot of tools, they just don't know how to use them all yet. And some of them only have one trick ponies right now.
Now I will say this too, with the edge rush class being what it is in terms of, a lot of raw guys. I mean, even if they were to, one, that might be an incentive to bring back Shaq Barrett. But 2, even if they were to bring back Shaq Barrett, they still may go ahead and draft an edge rusher in round 1, because if they're extremely raw, they can learn behind Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett, and then you're solving some of that depth issue as well at the edge rushing position.
Yeah, no doubt. And when I talk about 15 players, that's usually the case for drafts every year. It's usually about 15 to 18 guys that are legit first round talents because they're consistent and they show exactly who they are on tape, and it backs them up, and they just project really good at the next level. Like, you look at, the top guys in this class, obviously Trevor Lawrence, okay, first round talent, great quarterback. You look at, the other quarterbacks, Zach Wilson and Joe Fields, and, obviously you have Trey Lance, so quarterbacks, those guys I think are, legit first round talents. And then you look at just the offensive line in general. I think the offensive tackles are really good. Penei Sewell, Slater, Cosme. I'm trying to think. Tevin Jenkins. Those guys are first round talents. And then the receiving core, the cornerback position. I think at the top, the talent is really good. Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, Waddle, Rashad Bateman, and then cornerbacks Farley and Patrick Surtain. Those guys are really good. Linebackers, Micah Parsons. So I could go on. And then you look at, your edge options. We're going to look at, what's his name, Mark Kitty, Payway, and
Okay.
yeah, Quiddy Pay. Yeah, is that how you say it? Pay. Okay. Yeah, that guy from Michigan. So I mean, you look at him, you look at Jalen Phillips. So all these guys, the defensive tackle class, I think, is very weak. Unfortunately, I don't see a lot of top end guys there. You talked about Barmore, high upside, but again, I just don't feel he's a fit for what we're gonna do. So I think he can go to a team that can utilize him better. But again, that was a long rant, a long spiel. But overall, basically, the talent is it's top heavy. And when I look at 32nd pick, I just feel like the better value is getting those extra picks in the second and third rounds where you can really maximize and trade down and probably get like a Javonte Williams, who I think is a really damn good running back. And it would just be better value from that standpoint.
Yeah, I agree fully about the trade back.
Mm.
I'm saying of the situation of if one of those two running backs are there.
Oh yeah, you gotta look at it. I mean, ETN is a hell of a player, and then Najee Harris can do everything. So can ETN. So yeah, if one of them are there, I think you definitely consider it, and that's an upgrade. It's an upgrade over Rojo. I'm sorry, I love Rojo, but it's an upgrade, and he's an instant starter.
I agree, James. What do you think about running back 32?
Look, I'm a very big Ronald Jones fan, okay? I really am. Now, I actually, in my first mock draft that I did, I had them taking Kenneth Gainwell, I believe with one of their picks later on in the draft. It was either second or third, because he's just a phenomenal receiving back. Yeah. I still pound the drum for Ronald Jones, darn it. I'm going to die on that hill. I mean, obviously, Najee Harris, I mean, the dude's an absolute beast. He just looks like he's basically just Derrick Henry. I mean, and that's a tough thing to pass up. And yeah, I mean, like Michael said, if one of those guys is there at 32, I think they would consider it. I would not personally be a fan of a running back at 32, but if I'm taking my bias away from it and just thinking about it very realistically, maybe that is something they do, Mark, and that's kind of what you alluded to as well with that best player available type situation.
Yeah. I mean, I like I just said earlier, like I'm not for running backs early. Never am. Never. I mean, I'm not for paying running backs in general. And Rojo's contracts, this is his last year under his contract. So what do we have in the future? I mean, yeah, you have Vaughn right behind him, Keyshawn Vaughn. So he could have the next level up that Rojo had his second year. And Vaughn literally barely got touches, and he could catch the ball at Vanderbilt. So he's proven that to me. So let's just see it at the NFL level. I think he can. So that's why, to me, running back truly isn't a need. A lot of people are saying it is.
Yeah.
But if you can get a talent at that elite level, I don't see why you wouldn't do it. That's my own.
Yeah, and I agree with what you guys are saying. Again, I'm not a fan of drafting running backs in the first round. Hell, I wasn't a fan of drafting an inside linebacker at 5th pick overall. Yeah. But you know what? It worked because Devin White is a natural playmaker and he fits this defense to a T. He is, he's the key to the defense. Everything runs up the middle. So, my whole thing is I'm looking for impact. I'm looking for impact players. And if running back is going to make the biggest impact, because when you look at our team, that's probably the biggest position that could use an upgrade, in my opinion. And you go make that play. But, offensive line, edge rusher, any type of, those kind of things, I think I'd be very happy with at 32 because it's going to make an impact, whether it's, this season or in next season, because we're losing guys, to free agency or what have you.
Yeah. So let's James, let's bring you into this. So, oh no, not this one. Where is it?
Oh, hey, Kevin.
Here he is. Kevin 5522 says, "How would you guys feel if the Bucs draft a cornerback or safety early if they felt they were the best player available?" We always talk about this best player available thing. Do you consider those two spots an area of need? And how would you feel if? I mean, we are kind of loaded, not loaded, but pretty good players are there. How do you feel about that?
It would be tough because that'd be a tough thing to look at. The Bucs, geez, it feels like they've drafted at least one or more cornerbacks and safeties like in every draft. You know, when we look at the guys down, Jordan Whitehead, starting safety, he was a draft pick. Antoine Winfield Jr., starting safety, he was a draft pick. Mike Edwards, borderline starting safety, he was a draft pick. Cornerback, Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Jamel Dean, they were all draft picks. They've already spent so much freaking draft capital, but we just talked about it with Ronald Jones. Some of these guys' contracts are expiring here coming up soon. Jordan Whitehead, Carlton Davis. I think that both those guys would probably get re-signed, probably. But if they were to draft a cornerback or a safety, that would basically be them saying, you know, we like Jamel Dean, but we don't think he should be a starter. We like Jordan Whitehead, but we don't feel he should be a starter. And I just don't think that's going to happen. I mean, Bruce Arians has been very public about just the development of all these young secondary guys and how happy he's been with their development. So personally, I don't think it would happen. I think that it would be more of a situation where at that situation, if that really is the best player available, a cornerback or a safety, maybe they would trade down.
Yeah, I would agree with what you said. I think, you know, it's always good to take secondary players, I think, in every draft, because, again, when you look at this game, what is it about? It's about getting after the quarterback. It's about stopping the pass. You have to be able to throw the football as well. You have to be able to protect your quarterback. So, you know, taking left tackles, taking pass rushers, and taking, secondary players, I think is a very good idea. But I would lean towards, if they were going to take one, it would probably be on a day 3 type of thing, where you're adding guys that you feel have tremendous upside and can grow into a position later down the road, So I think that's what they would look at, especially when you look at this secondary class in general. I think there's some guys day 3 that could be very beneficial for this team.
Yeah, I mean, so that we're talking about later in the draft then. So I know you mentioned Kenneth Gainwell earlier. Is that like your favorite guy for later in the draft? Who's a James?
There was another cornerback I had taken a look at. Brian Mills, I believe is his name, from, let me see if I can find him exactly. One moment. Yeah, Brian Mills, cornerback from North Carolina Central. I had the Bucs taking in my first mock draft. I think he kind of falls in line with what the Bucs do. 6'1", 180 pounds. He's a pretty decent press man corner. And I think that, like Michael said, a later round guy, the Bucs are potentially losing Ryan Smith in free agency, so maybe they get just his replacement for a guy who can play a little bit better that cornerback position than what Ryan Smith was giving the Bucs, and also replace that value that he has on special teams as well. That would be something I think the Buccaneers would consider in terms of like a cornerback or even a safety.
Yeah, no, I like that idea. I like obviously the hot name I think going around is Kelvin Joseph out of Kentucky. I think that's his name. He's a really good player that, obviously he might go day 2, but I think he would be a good pick. A lot of people now talking about Eric Stokes from Georgia because he ran a 4.25. So, I think, that's what they're going to look for. I think they're going to look for athletes. I think they've done that in the past and really find athletic guys that can do things in space that fits their defense. So it'll be fun. I'm excited for it. And talking about Gainwell, we love Gainwell. I think that guy, he can do everything. Mark brought me onto him, and he's legit. Like, it's unfortunate he didn't play last year. Obviously had circumstances, with COVID, and I think his family, had issues there, and so obviously he wanted to take the time. But hell of a player.
The one scenario where I'd be fine with the Buccaneers taking a cornerback early, just because I think it'd be really cool, is if they took Asante Samuel Jr.
Oh, true. Florida State. Yep.
Right. Well, it's not even just because I don't like Florida State. I don't care for them. And I don't hate them. I just don't care for them. Look, listen. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that it would just be cool to have Antoine Winfield Jr. and then Asante Samuel Jr. on the same team. It'd be kind of cool, right?
Legacies.
Yep. Right. That would be cool. That's why I think it would be cool, is to kind of have like these really long tenured secondary players' sons on the team. That's cool.
That Tom Brady's played with, and
right, exactly. Yeah, he's either played with him, played against him. That would be cool.
Gosh, you know what? Based on that, we got to do an evaluation on him. We got to do a film breakdown.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we will.
Because that would be cool to see, though.
Right.
This is another guy I like, Jared Patterson, Buffalo University. He's another running back that I think kind of like he's very similar, I think, to Devin Singletary for Buffalo. For the Bills. I just like his game, like kind of shorter back, not very big, can do everything pretty much. So I really like his game.
I mean, I'm a fan of him because you know, I'm just reading through a quick report right now. I haven't done research on Jarrett Patterson yet, but it says that his ideal role is a number 2 running back in a committee. Sounds good to me. You know, Ronald Jones can still be the starter.
Did he say that? That's his own ideal role.
Right? No, it's on the Draft Network.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact though that we're saying Kenneth Gainwell. So I can't pronounce this guy's first name, but I've seen him. He's a bigger dude.
Stevenson.
Yeah, Stevenson.
Oh yeah, from is he Oklahoma?
Ramondre, I think it is. Ramondre, I don't know, but
yeah,
Oklahoma.
Ramondre.
He is a ball, literally a bowling ball. Like, he can jump over you, can run over you. So, yeah, there's guys like him. There's Jared Patterson. There's Gainwell. There's talent later in the draft, which is another reason why I always say never draft running back early. Kamara was a first-round pick. I mean, there's a lot of talent that you can have.
Yeah.
You have to have an elite level type of running
Michael Carter Jr. is really good too.
Especially when your offense isn't centered around running the ball.
No, it's not. Pass first.
That's all you do. So you better have an elite bell cow or pass first. So you don't really necessarily need it. But I'm very open when it comes to certain situations like that, especially if the talent matches the spot where you're drafting and there's no one else near what that guy is. Okay, I can justify it. I'm not going to reach on a guy just because I have a need here. This guy, should have been a top 10 pick is there. I got to do it. I just got to do it. And that's almost the OJ Howard situation.
Yeah.
That's a fun topic there.
Howard?
OJ Howard, yeah.
Oh, if we should trade him or keep him, or what could he do?
Yeah, it's just the tight end room in general. It's going to be interesting what they do with Cameron Brate and OJ Howard as well.
Could be really interesting. I have a buddy of mine who's a big Cameron Brate fan. We've talked about. He goes, me and him had talked at length. He goes, I just feel like Cameron Brate could still be a cap casualty. If it means like bringing back a guy like Sue or Gronk, and you use Cam Brate's money for that, I think you got to do it. Especially with OJ Howard coming back too. I've seen a lot of people say that oh man, they should get rid of OJ. Like, it doesn't save them the money that it would save cutting Cameron Brate, does it?
Yeah,
it's more than OJ right now.
Right. So yeah.
I mean, OJ's going to get a raise here shortly, just because they have to. His option's going to kick in, so he'll probably be making about the same as Cameron Brate, be about $6 million.
Right. And I just think, and it's guaranteed if he gets injured, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So it would be interesting. I mean, people forget too, like OJ was looking pretty good before he got hurt. He was finally starting to rebound a little bit too with Brady, and then he unfortunately, messed up his Achilles and whatnot. I feel like if we would have seen an entire year with OJ Howard, with Brady, I mean, the offense would have been even more potent. I know people are saying that Brate is reliable. He was, especially in that playoff run. But I mean, you got to make sacrifices somewhere,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Well,
it'd be interesting to see too, with maybe Tanner Hudson could fill in that Cameron Brate role, or something like that. I don't know.
Would it hurt to see him go? Yes. Obviously, he's been here so long. He's done nothing but produce when given the opportunity.
And he made the play of the offseason too. I mean, catching that Super Bowl trophy, that's no joke. I mean, he will always be a legend for that because it's a heck of a catch. People don't realize how hard that was. I mean, that's a trophy that has sharp edges on it. And he caught it bare hands. And that was a hell of a play.
That might have just kept him on the team for that alone.
Right. Yeah. So
he saved the day.
That was disgusting though, either way. I mean, Tanner Hudson, fifth, fourth tight end. That's
Mhm.
Yeah, and then you have Anthony Auclair, who I don't know if he gets re-signed back, and then you have this kid Malcolmore or
Cody
not
McCoy.
not Malcolmore, not the rapper. Yeah, he's 6'7", he's a big dude, so maybe.
well, I mean, a whole lot of good things are about to happen. That's all. I think it's bring your guys back, see what you can do. They'll
Yeah.
find a way.
Yeah, it's going to be
So the last question, James,
Sure.
are you ready for this crazy offseason that we're about to go into? I mean, this is going to be chaos.
the one downside is that like I get scared to death if like news hits while I'm at work, because then I just want to cry because I can't make a video talking about it. That's my one biggest fear. But yes, I'm very excited. It's going to be different than what we're used to, because usually we're used to seeing like, oh man, the Bucs don't have to re-sign that many people. Oh, here comes free agency. Who we going to get? Now it's going to be the reverse. Like we're going to get excited about re-signings. Then we're like, okay, free agency, cool. We'll sign like 2 guys, and then that's good. Now we'll just kind of chill out until the draft. It's going to be the reverse this year, but it's still going to be exciting. I can't wait to see who the Buccaneers bring back. To be honest, this sounds a little weird, but like, even those players who are going to leave and go to different teams, I'm excited to see where they go too, unless they go to, an NFC South team. But, it'll be cool to see where the other players go now that they have better opportunities to make more money and, be starters elsewhere. It's going to be a lot of fun, It is going to be a lot of fun. And then the draft obviously is going to be insane as always. This is going to be cool. I'm ready. Already stockpiling some stuff ahead of time, some content, just to push out there to keep the flow going.
Mr. Content Creator.
Yes.
Creator of Bucs content creation on YouTube.
We're all content creators on YouTube.
You're the originator of us.
Yeah. No, I'm not.
No, I am not. Of Bucs content, of Bucs true, like I guess in-depth, heartfelt content. Or just let me give you this compliment, James.
Fine, Mark.
And live it. Love it. Well, on that, James, thank you very much for coming on. Like,
yes.
It's awesome. It's always awesome.
Thank you guys.
Time, always think about us.
I'm always thinking about you guys. Thank you for having me. I'm always watching your guys' videos, the film reviews. It's beautiful. They're amazing. You guys do stuff that nobody else does on here, and like that's amazing and wonderful. So I'm very appreciative for what you guys do, because it's top class content. I mean that sincerely, guys.
Thank you. Yeah. So James, with that being said, tell everyone how they can get, find your content and, where they can talk Bucs football with you.
Yeah. So just actually right here on YouTube, Mr. Bucs Nation. I'm on here all the time doing content, talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you guys are interested, go ahead and subscribe. Go check out some of the latest videos I've been doing. Leave some comments with your own thoughts and opinions on some of those things. And let's just kind of hang out and talk about Buccaneers football. It's always a fun time. By the way, if you guys are new here on Real Bucs Talk, go ahead and subscribe, because I know I promoted it on my community tab before we started. About an hour ago, I promoted it. So for any of my viewers who are just coming in and watching it, subscribe here to Real Bucs Talk. That'd be pretty cool.
Awesome.
You the man, James.
No problem.
All right. Mark, any last thoughts? I think we're ready to close this out.
We just had it with the greatest.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, guys in the chat, thank you so much again. James, again, thank you. This was awesome. And we'll definitely get, you back on here, soon, with the craziness that is going to happen over the next couple of months. So with that being said, guys, everyone have a good night. And as always, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.